Get it? The Bert Show.
Time to get buzzed on the hot goss from Hollywood with Abby. It's the Bert Show's Entertainment Buzz.
When you go to see a Marvel movie, it's such a successful franchise that you're not really expecting anything that less than like a C-rated movie. But the latest installment in the franchise is getting such horrible reviews that it might be an F- on the scale. So Madam Web currently has a 13% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That's how poorly it's doing with critics. And I have to say, some of them are absolutely hysterical. The Wall Street Journal says it collapses so pathetically that studio execs might as well dialed 911 to rescue it. The Atlantic says, I almost admire the sheer lack of effort on display in the acting, storytelling, and set pieces. To say that Dakota Johnson in particular, phoned this performance in would be an insult to Alexander Graham Bell.
Wow.
ABC News says, God awful is too wimpy a word for this super diva cash grab that sinks Dakota Johnson in what feels like a random batch of half-baked ideas tossed at the screen in the cynical assumption that will buy any lazy hack work that is Spider-Man adjacent. Resist.
So interestingly enough, Madam Web is actually not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So the ones who are putting out the Avengers and all that, it's not done by them. It's done by Sony, who did Morbius, that Jared Leto one that also tanked. But the theory is Dakota Johnson didn't realize that when she signed on, because when she announced she was playing Madam Web, she tagged Marvel Studios, who are not a part of it, and then asked Elizabeth Olsen, who plays one of the characters, her feedback on how to do it. So everyone's like, oh, Dakota thought she was signing on to a legit Marvel franchise, not knowing it was really just Sony and their little universe that they're building out around Spider-Man.
Well, isn't that an agent's job to fill them in on something like that?
I heard she fired her agents once she found out about this.
Yikes.
Yeah, so it's not going well. And it seems like even Dakota knew it was such a bad movie because during this interview with Entertainment Tonight, she was giving us absolutely nothing but awkward vibes, and it should have been a tell for what was to come.
What do you see for the future of Madam Web?
Well, it is a standalone world. Honestly, it depends if Sony's happy with how the movie does.
Do you know or have a hope of who the Peter Parker is in this world?
I have no idea. Marvel movies are the most confusing. Having to know past storylines is so confusing. So I'm really grateful to be in one where you don't really have to know anything going into it.
There's a mentor/generational kind of gap between these girls and Cassie. What was your relationship with the three girls on set as actresses?
Similar. It was so fun to have them around, and the three of them really bonded. And then there was me.
It just feels like she phoned in this interview.
Yeah. That is very typical. Dakota Johnson interviews are she has this, and I do find her likable, but she has a DGAF air about her for sure. But the fact that the critics were painting this before it even hit, and the Rotten Tomatoes score was 17 before it even hit theaters, to see that it's dropped and it's even getting worse reviews, ow.
It's one of those movies that's getting so much buzz for being terrible that I know people that are going to see it just because they want to know how bad it is.
I actually want to see it because the reviews are so bad.
Sometimes, though, my son is really into Marvel and DC. Marvel, I think, specifically. And what he, as a hardcore superhero and comic book fan, he goes into that movie with a way different expectation than I do. I just want to escape for 90 minutes. That's all. Storyline. Give me something that I can understand and digest, and then I'll walk out of there and I'll love it. And he will he's so educated on everything in these worlds that he will pick everything apart, and he can't watch it just for the sake of entertainment.
Wow. He should do movie reviews for us.
I told him that.
Tell him to phone it in. It'd be great to have him buzz in for an e-buzz.
I suggested that, and he's like, Dad, nobody listens to radio anymore.
Did you tell him? Well, we have a podcast now.
Did you say, how you're attending college,
That's
right?
exactly what I said.
Your daddy's radio paycheck.
Okay, you know what movie I didn't hate this weekend that I totally expected to? I turned on that Jennifer Lopez, what looked like it should have been a Marvel movie called This Is Me Now.
Your fever dream trailer?
It looked like an absolute fever dream. I thought, oh my God, this is her trying to come for Dakota Johnson's job. I didn't hate it.
Really?
So it's
Was
about-
the bar set so low in the trailer though? Because it looked like it sucked.
I think that's why most people like this Madam Web movie because they're going into like they're going in with like the 13% Rotten Tomatoes rating and they're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. So I went in with low expectations and honestly, I had a good time.
Really?
If you like J-Lo's music, it's basically like a bunch of music videos strung together. It's a little choppy, but you know what? I really respect J-Lo for taking a creative risk and I think it panned out for her.
I made it 5 minutes.
Is that right? You gave it. At least you gave it
I
a shot.
tried. I did try, though.
Even that booty couldn't save it?
Nope. It wasn't enough.
For more stories, head to the Bert Show podcast on your favorite listening platform.
Get it? The Bert Show.